Hip-hop has a long and controversial history with ghostwriters. While other music genres generally don't make a big deal about who writes what, rap's particular focus on penmanship and personal accounts has made ghostwriting a touchy topic. Before we get into the list, let's clear a few things up. Ghostwriting isn't necessarily writing whole verses. It could have just been a melody, a hook, an idea. As long as it contributed to the overall song, it's part of the writing process. Also, for all intents and purposes, we're going to use ghostwriter as an umbrella term to include credited writer, uncredited writer, and co-writer. Alright, so let's get into it. Here are 56 hip-hop songs since 1979 that have verifiably been written by ghostwriters. Sugar Hill Gang's Rapper's Delight is the earliest notable case of ghostwriting in the hip-hop industry. It's also the most egregious example. As the story goes, Big Bank Hank was going to record the song, but he didn't have any rhymes ready, so he asked Grandmaster Caz to write some for him. Grandmaster Caz said, "So when he came to me like, yo, these people want me to make a rap," I said, "For what? You don't rap. You ain't no MC. Didn't you tell him about me?" He's like, "The lady heard my tapes and she likes my voice." So anyway, he said, "I need you to write me some rhymes because we going in the studio." I'm not thinking nothing of it. I'm not thinking this is going anywhere. So I'm like, "Cool, come over my house." He came to my house. I threw a bunch of rhymes on the table and said, say this, and say that." LL Cool J is credited on the song as J.T. Smith. Around that same time, LL was getting ready to drop his debut album and was called on by Russell Simmons and Run DMC to assist with the group's second album, King of Rock. I wrote the song Chick on the Side on the B-side of Push It, Cool Rap remembered in an interview with Platform 8470. It was before G-Rap ever had a record, before I was with Juice Crew, before all of that. This was backed up in a recent interview. Cheryl James, aka Salt, talked about the legendary Queens rapper penning the words for the record. Ice Cube actually wrote Boyz n the Hood for Homeboys Only, a New York rap group that were the first rap act to be signed to Ruthless Records. But after the group passed on the song due to its heavy West Coast themes, Dr. Dre suggested to Eazy that he should rap it instead. Well, I actually wrote Boyz n the Hood for a group of his. It wasn't for him. He had a group called HBO, Cube said in a Billboard interview. He was just going to be the manager, so I wrote some songs and he was like, "I like the stuff you write, I like what you're talking about, write a song for my group." So I wrote Boyz n the Hood, and they turned it down. But Dr. Dre convinced Eazy to do it. Eazy just worked hard. He worked hard and actually became a pretty good rapper. Over the decades, Big Daddy Kane has spoken in lengths about being a ghostwriter for Biz Markie, an assertion that was never been denied by the late great clown prince of hip-hop. Big Daddy Kane said, "For me, ghostwriting for someone else wasn't hard, because if I did it in my style, that's pretty much something good for you, and doing it in someone else's style, if they have a more simpler style, then it makes my job easier, because now I ain't got to think too complicated." For example, writing for Biz, it wasn't really about having hot rhymes, it was about having something funny. Biz just wanted something funny to say. It's a well-known fact that Ice Cube, MC Ren, and the DOC penned the majority of the lyrics for N.W.A's debut album. They're also officially credited as writers on the album notes. The Ghetto Boys' best-known song was originally supposed to be a Scarface solo joint. Not only did the Houston OG produce the track, he penned 3 of the 4 verses on the song. Willie D said, "First of all, Brad brought the song to the table. He got the idea from his grandmother. His grandmother would always say when she lost something, 'My mind playing tricks on me.' So he took that. A light went off, or it came on. He wrote like 3 verses to the song. The song was basically written. When Jay Prince heard the song, he said, 'This needs to be a Ghetto Boys song,' because Scarface had actually wrote it for himself. Not only did Jermaine Dupri discover Criss Cross, he also wrote and produced a majority of their multi-platinum debut album. Deep Cover was a pivotal moment for Dre's recording career. On the outs with Ruthless Records and on his own as a solo artist, it was a do-or-die moment for the Compton producer. Luckily for Dre, he had a secret weapon, a lanky Long Beach rapper who rapped like the West Coast version of Slick Rick. I asked Dre, I said, "What you want your first line to be?" Snoop remembered in an interview with Revolt. He said, "Tonight's the night I get in some shit, Deep Cover on the incognito tip." I said, "All right, I got you." The DOC is the unheralded MVP of the ruthless Death Row Records era. Not only did the Texas rapper contribute significantly to N.W.A.'s debut album, he's also credited as a writer on a number of the Chronic songs, including Nothing But a G-Thang. The DOC said, "That was one of the first records that Snoop and I worked together on, where it was me imparting, if you will, to him the formula, for lack of a better way. By that time, the competition phase had passed. My voice was gone. Artists like Snoop are super hard to come by. I knew when we wrote the record. That's why I told Snoop to put my name. I was gonna make that video. Put my name right there. Dre hates that. Why you always got your name in a record? Come on, man. I gotta get in how I fit in." According to Method Man, A lot of the verses Old Dirty rapped on his debut were old RZA and GZA rhymes. Meth told Complex. Dirty took all their shit and made it his own, and GZA ain't say shit. Most of Dirty's verses was GZA shit. I remember GZA and ODB got in an argument one night, and GZA was like, homie, most of that shit on your fucking album is mines anyway. Jay-Z is credited on several tracks off Foxy Brown's 1996 debut album under Sean Carter. Sauce is credited as a writer on the song, under Todd Gaither, and has, on multiple occasions, talked about how Puffy not clearing the police sample ended up costing them millions in publishing money. The Notorious B.I.G. wrote for Lil Kim. Cam'ron wrote for Lil Cease. It's a well-known fact that Biggie used to pen Lil Kim's bars. He's credited as C. Wallace on this song, but not as many people that it was Cam'ron who wrote Lil Cease's verse. Cam'ron, what happened was, Entertainment CEO Lance Rivera gave Mace $30,000 to write 5 songs for Lil Cease at that time, and Mace gave me $5,000 of the 30 to write 1 or 2 of the songs, explained Killa. I wrote the Crush on You song, and they ended up keeping it for Lil Kim album, but it was really for Lil Cease. The original Crush on You is all Lil Cease. Lil Kim isn't even on the record. In an interview on the People's Party with Talib Kweli podcast, the LOX rapper revealed that it was him who wrote Puffy's verse. Diddy happened to come into the room and hear me rhyming, and I already had that rhyme, Jadakiss recalled. He heard it and was like, nah, that's me, let me get that right there. He took that and put it on the Benjams. Me and Sheik didn't like the Benjams, Kiss later revealed. Diddy almost like forced us to record the verses that we have on there. We didn't really understand what that beat was. It didn't grasp us at the time. We weren't eager to record it. But Diddy knew. That's what makes Diddy Diddy. This ghostwriting case has been rumored and debated for years, but the fact is that Nas is credited as a writer on the track under Nasir Jones. In a 2014 Reddit AMA, the Queensbridge rapper also said, I hung out with Will in the studio and watched him write it. It was a fun studio session, and I said a line or 2 or 3 to him. It wasn't that serious, which sounds like Nas downplaying his involvement due to his respect for Will Smith. In an interview with Hot 97, Nas' former manager, Steve Stout, confirmed that Nas had contributed to Getting Jiggy With It. Steve Stout, Will had a couple people write for him, but when we really needed to finish that thing up, we brought Nas in. He'd write some of it, then he'd hate himself, then he'd keep writing. I was like, Nas, there's publishing money in this. This is a real thing. Just don't listen to the Getting Jiggy With It part. Listen to the rest. Jay-Z writing Still DRE for Dre and Snoop is probably the highest profile ghostwriting example. At first, he wrote about diamonds and Bentleys, Dre explained to Blaze magazine in a 1999 interview. So I told Jay to write some other shit. Jigga sat for 20 minutes and came back with some hard-ass, around-the-way LA shit. It was also revealed later on that not only did Jay write Dre's lyrics, he penned Snoop Dogg's verses as well. Snoop told The Breakfast Club, he wrote Dre's shit and my shit and it was flawless. It was still DRE and it was Jay-Z and he wrote the whole fucking song. So we just kept it that way. I laid my vocals and that was it. Written by Royce da 5'9" and produced by Lord Finesse, the message was dedicated to Dr. Dre's half-brother, Tyree Deshaun Crayon, who passed away after an altercation. When he was writing the song for Dre, Royce revealed that he had no idea about his brother and was writing from his personal experience. Royce said, I was rapping about a friend of mine who got shot in the neck. He was standing on the corner with some people. Somebody rolled up and shot him. Nobody knew what it was for. He wasn't beefing with nobody or nothing. So when I found out about it, I was hitting his pager and everything. Everything I said on that song, I absolutely went through. That's why I felt like people were going to be able to relate to that. Before Jay-Z stans start freaking out, it's not like Kanye was penning full verses or anything like that for his big brother. It was just a little catchy line and that Hove got from Ye, I'm from the murder capital where we murder for capital, and added to Lucifer. This is what I meant when I said at the beginning. Ghostwriting isn't always about giving another rapper whole pre-written verses or reference tracks. Sometimes it's just little ideas or melodies, though that's not to downplay those contributions. Pharaoh Munch is credited under Troy Jamerson on the song. Pharaoh Munch said, man, what's weird about that is, if I find the original verses that I laid down, they're very different from Diddy's, not taking anything away from what was done, but the way I approached it was a little more akin to my swagger. Royce is credited as Ryan Montgomery on the song. Royce da 5'9" said, Puff Daddy, writing for him, he made me appreciate the art of rewriting. He pushed me so hard, dog. So hard I was taking it personally. I thought I wasn't doing good enough. I thought he wasn't really hearing me the right way. I didn't like that shit at that time. But I had to say, this motherfucker made me write 34 verses to one song. Why don't I have that kind of relationship with my own records? I sent this homie a verse I'm crazy about. He sends me back the verse with holes in it and tells me to fill them back in with something else.